Hi, folks. Having a good day today. Let me be the first to welcome you to Autism Rocks and Rolls. Now, before we begin, I must note that I'm not a psychiatrist. If you're starting to be diagnosed with autism, please see a physician, at least based on my experiences. Now, let's go on the right to the intro natural that I found on ytmp3.com. I also have a mission statement to review with all of you. The mission of Autism Rocks and Rolls is to take the stigma off of autism and other conditions that many think are disabilities. People on the spectrum are not broken and do not need to be fixed. Those who have conditions or abilities don't have to be pitied. There's nothing to be sorry about. I also have some people I'd like to thank. As always, we must travel to the deep heart of Texas and thank Colby Stamport, the autistic cowboy. And C243, meet the autistic cowboy or Colby Stamport for more information. But what an informative guest with some great knowledge to share. My next thank you is to someone who I looked up to and who has sadly passed away in the professional wrestling world. The man I am referring to is Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was known to many as the Fiend, the Eater of Worlds, and the new face of fear. But to me, your connection with the WWE Universe and me goes beyond that. Back when I saw you in 2015, I saw a character that I could look up to. I wish I could have met you behind the cameras. Thank you, Bray, and I hope you are following the buzzards. Our friend Tamara Tellez will be hosting another retreat on September 30th in Charleston, South Carolina. While we cannot come, we do wish her success and make sure to go if you are in the South Carolina area. It will be an amazing time. There is a connection that needs to be brought up, and that is Tony Kaufman from Standout Stars Speaking Agency, the best resource for connecting, marketing, and generating income from trainers, writers, and company owners and standout stars. They combine the power of an experienced media and marketing staff with a network of passionate entrepreneurs that frequently appear on webinars and virtual events by implementing technology to make it easier to connect with the right partners. The Standout Stars Speakers Bureau has the tools and resources you need to successfully convey your message and widen your network. It is possible that you will hear his name more often down the road. Also, we had our monthly board meeting. In addition to welcoming Aaron Patrick Smith and Abe Shapiro to the board, we also welcome Carly Pellet as our newest intern. We eagerly anticipate their involvement. I have also done 2 speed networking events. The first was a brand new clubhouse room called Why Do You Do? This room was about telling the other people in the room why you do your occupation. The second was the classic informative roundtable. I saw some old friends, but I also collected some new ones too. And since the last episode, I've been on the Nina, I Am Not My Illness podcast with Nina herself. What a great podcast, everyone. Now, folks, we'll be right back. We're near an ad from the barn on Maryland Ridge, so let's get to it.
There is a hidden gem in eastern Greene County, folks. Fowler's Pumpkin Patch and the barn on Maryland Ridge Wedding Barn. Autism Rocks and Rolls is very proud to tell you about our friends Perry and Renee Fowler and their place of business. Both Fowler Pumpkin Patch and the barn on Maryland Ridge is a relaxing drive approximately 15 minutes from the heart of Bloomington, Indiana, and an hour south of Indianapolis. You can find them at 5347 South Greene County Line Road, Bloomington, Indiana, 47403. The property has numerous picture locations, including several rolling fields, antique tractors, red and rustic barns, trees, and much more. Customized wedding packages are offered on their website. The surrounding area also provides several hotels in which to have your guests stay for your destination wedding. Also, Fowler's Pumpkin Patch is a family-owned and operated seasonal pumpkin patch. It's the perfect place to take your family for some fall fun. Enjoy picking out pumpkins, hay rides, a corn maze, and a petting zoo. Call the Fowlers today at 812-327-4895 or 812-325-6022.
All right, folks, we're back, and yes, you'll definitely hear the words I do at this wedding barn. We have 2 amazing ladies who are both associated with the Arc of South Carolina with me. First, we have the amazing executive director, Margie Williamson, who began with the Arc of South Carolina in April 2012. She had previously been in the nonprofit sector for more than 10 years. She brings a unique family perspective to the role of the executive director for the Arc of South Carolina because she is the parent of a child with autism. She is passionate about her work with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Through her early college years, she worked diligently with children on the autism spectrum, assisting with caregiver relief as well as advocating for services. We also have the blossoming director of outreach policy, Danni Bloom, who was originally from the Low Country region of South Carolina and has lived all over the state, but now calls Chapin home. In October 2000, Danny's 2-year-old son was diagnosed with autism, so the ARC's mission is close to her heart. She graduated from the University of South Carolina with a bachelor's degree in social and behavioral science and received her Master's of Business Administration (MBA) from the Citadel. Not only do they advocate for autism, but they go beyond that by being involved with their event, Wings for All. or some is called Wings for Autism. Wings for All or Wings for Autism is a special airport rehearsal created for travelers with impairments or autism, their families, and aviation experts. Their program aims to lessen some of the anxiety that families who are flying with loved ones with disabilities go through. Let's welcome the influencers, Margie Williamson and Danni Bloom. Ladies, how are we doing?
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having us.
Hey, great to be here. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, ladies. Something I forgot to mention. So only the first time you speak. I don't know why people do this all the time, but they do this more when they speak. So only the first time you can just introduce yourself. You'd be like, hey, this is Margie, yada, yada, yada. Only the first time. Only the first time. You have to do it multiple times unless you choose to, but you don't have to. Only the first. So my first question to you ladies is, what does being involved with an event and an organization, what does being involved with an event and organization that represent autism mean to you?
Who should go first?
Take it away, Danni.
Okay. Hey, this is Danni. In 2011, the Wings for Autism program was created by the Charles River Center in collaboration with the Massachusetts Port Authority, and it was called Wings for Autism because the focus was mainly on helping individuals with autism overcome the barriers to transportation or participating in air travel, excuse me. Over the years, the move was made to call it Wings for Autism, Wings for All, to include people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And our chapter, we call it Wings for All because we want to be more inclusive of all types of disabilities. Being involved in this event has provided, being involved in this event has provided an airport rehearsal for
If you guys
families.
stammer, do not worry. We can edit it out. Do not feel bad.
Thank you so much. Provides an airport rehearsal for families and aviation professionals. It gives me great joy in knowing that it allows families to practice the airport experience so they can hopefully make plans to travel with greater confidence and finally take that trip they're hoping to make one day.
Hey, Sam, it's Margie. So I think one of the wonderful things about this program is really the opportunities, not only for our folks with disabilities, but most importantly for their inclusion in their community, and not only their inclusion in their community, but for other people to understand that we are all just absolutely perfect in the way that we're made. So this event really allows everybody in their communities to gain access to resources and services that will give them more opportunities to travel and see different things outside of the locations that they live in.
Okay, two things. First of all, we can definitely tell you both are from the South. You got that accent, and I love it. So awesome. But second, you said you try to show that everyone is perfect the way they are made, and I agree with you. But how does Wings for All in general show that everyone's perfect despite that they are terrible going through airports? Because I'm one of them. Because airports are a living nightmare for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what it does is it teaches folks on the other side how to be patient. It teaches folks on the other side to recognize that somebody might need a break. They may need to sit down and you know, put on their headphones or whatever else. It teaches all of those aspects to the people that can really make the difference to make airport rehearsal for folks that may not like flying, right? Sam, just so you know, I don't like to fly either. So it's a great opportunity for me to go through the process and recognize that my anxieties whenever I am flying are just a normal thing, right?
Yeah, and that shows a lot because it makes me feel that I'm not the only one, that someone listening is not the only one who cannot go through an airport or even on an airplane. So you saying that is very applaudable and inspiring. Now, what were your initial... Oh, go ahead.
No, thank you for that, Sam. I appreciate that.
Of course. Now, what were your initial thoughts when you learned that you were going to have an event and be involved with an organization that represented autism?
Danni, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. I felt that being involved with the event and the organization allowed me to somehow make a small difference in the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities by helping them learn about how their loved ones might react to the different stimuli inside of an airport. I mean, for anyone going to an airport, the lights, the sounds, the crowd, that can be very overwhelming. And This event gives the airport, the airlines, TSA professionals, and other personnel the opportunity to observe, interact, and deliver their services in a structured learning environment, improving their disability competency and the processes for accommodating all passengers who fly.
What can someone, as Margie would say, on the other side, take from someone who is maybe on the high functioning end of autism, but again, gets overwhelmed all of a sudden when you put them with the big crowds, or as you could say, the big dogs?
Yeah, so I want to kind of take a little bit step back, if that's okay. You know, you asked a little bit about what it was like to be involved with an organization that represents autism. I can tell you that when I started with the ARC of South Carolina, you said how many years ago it was. I'm trying not to show my age, Sam. But when I started with the ARC of South Carolina years ago, I really was looking for a home for my child. You know, my child was younger then. He's 21 now. So I was looking for a home for him that he would have a network of people that understood his needs and that would advocate with him to reach his goals. So, you know, one of the goals for my family was to be able to take all of us on trips and get on airlines and do that. And this airport rehearsal allows for that. It allowed him to go through the process to recognize all of those little nuances that you have to go through when you're going through airport rehearsal in a structured manner that now he loves to fly. So it's kind of allowed him that opportunity.
That's incredible. Does he still have to do the rehearsals, or maybe not do them, but does he still help you out maybe?
Yeah, so he will come and volunteer for anything that we ask him to come volunteer for. But I think the great thing was is he was able to go through the process, understand you know, what it was when you had to take your shoes off, or when you're going in that machine, what the machine at TSA was going to be doing. So he knew the expectation for when we actually traveled. And so, you know, last year we went to South Dakota. And so he was able to go through 2 airports and things along those lines. And so with this experience, this has afforded him the opportunities to travel and see new locations. My son in general loves trains. He loves to train chase. And so he has a YouTube channel for train chasing, Sam. And so he's able to go to other places throughout the United States and all across the world where he can do his videoing of trains and things like that. So
When did your son get into that YouTube channel? Now I'm a little more interested in that.
yeah, so he has been doing it since he was a little boy. Like I said, he's 21, so he's been doing it for a very long time. He actually got frustrated at one point in time and deleted his channel off of YouTube, and we couldn't get all the videos back. But he's ramped back up, and he's you know, just getting these trains. He's all about all of these heritage units and all of this stuff. So I'll definitely share his YouTube channel with you.
Thank you so much. Now,
Yeah.
based on observations and what you guys have seen through these Wings for All event, how do you think someone with autism, or how do you think someone with a brain with autism operates based on what you've seen through Wings for All?
Well, I can only tell you how I believe my son's autistic brain operates. And I believe he craves consistency and a predictable routine. And this program allows them to go through the routine so that they can predict, you know, that the parents can predict how their loved ones may respond when they actually go on a trip. So this practice is just like for anyone else. We practice, we get better. We practice, we get better. And so this offers the opportunity to practice and get better and know what to expect, because you don't, I don't think that my son likes things to change rapidly without maybe us explaining what's happening. This is going to happen, you know, so this sort of allows that to happen. I believe that my son has created ways to help him process the world around him. And I think that a lot of folks are like that who have autism, and maybe we don't understand exactly how they do that, but we know that they need time, they need extra compassion and guidance. And I believe that this program allows that.
I'm glad you said that, Danni, because even though I hate the structure of airports and airlines, I love it at the same time, because this is my view. Have you guys heard the expression, the idea is good, change the material? That's what I feel about airlines. The idea is great. Don't get me wrong. The security, I get why we need to do it. But having us throwing our stuff in a bag and multiple people, no. Why can't we just be Andre the Giant and Princess Bride? Everybody move! And literally just go one person at a time.
So Sam, to kind of piggyback on what Danny was saying, I think one of the big things is, is the not knowing what to expect. So, when our anxieties get increased, it's typically because we just don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know what the next step is. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. There's, and airports are they're busy. They're buzzing. And so we don't know what's next. And so this airport rehearsal allows people's brains to understand, okay, this is normal. This is the next step. This is normal. This is the next step. The wait is a normal process. You have to wait for your boarding number to get called out so that you can get in line to go on the airplane. You have to know that you have to take your shoes off. You have to know what that big wand that comes around you in the metal detector, what that means. So I think that's one of the biggest things for, like an autistic brain is like, I don't know what to expect. So we're giving you the opportunity to know what you have to expect when you fly.
Yeah, I could be a guy never waving that wand. I'd be playing with it. Be like, beep, 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 beep. I'd be having too much fun. And the people be like, really? Can we move on, dude? I'd be having too much fun with it. So what is the most rewarding and the most difficult thing about being involved with an organization and an event that represents autism?
I want to say this, what the most rewarding thing for me, especially specifically about this event, we had an event, I heard you talking about Charleston. So we had an event at the Charleston airport and there was a young man and he just was struggling to get on. I think when you're kind of going down to get onto the airplane, it makes lots of noises and they had a fan running and it really just caused him so much anxiety. And I actually shot a picture of it, but as I was getting on the tail end of the plane, there was a stewardess and she had taken her shoes off and was sitting on the ground and was so patient. And I think they must have been out there saying for 15 or 20 minutes, just kind of talking through it. Another one of the folks that had boarded really wanted him to join, and she took off her headset and actually took it to him so that he could do it. And he ended up boarding the plane. And that's probably one of the most rewarding parts about doing this is seeing all the incredible successes that people with autism do every day. And so that's what's really, really impressive for me. Danny?
One of the things that I really enjoy is you notice that when people are getting on the airplane, they're a little bit scared and you can see it in their faces. And they get on and they're not sure what's going to happen. But when they get off, everyone is so happy. Everyone's like cheering, arms in the air, hugging. Some people are crying just because they're so overwhelmed, how it has affected them. And so that's really awesome, getting to, knowing that we're able to provide this opportunity for them to practice. And I would say probably the most difficult thing about it is knowing we can't help everybody. I mean, there's so many people that need this, and I'd love to be able to just help everyone, and we're working toward that. So one day.
Oh, I hope so too, guys. I really do. We can definitely see if we can figure out a way to get your word out there, because what you guys do, man, it is phenomenal. And the fact that I don't like airports, but this event could help me, it's like, I'm in. You name it, let's do it. Okay, so what advice would you give to someone who wants to host or join an organization or an event that represents autism?
My advice would be just to take the leap, do it. Don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about, am I doing this exactly right? Is this perfect? Just get in there and make the effort. Don't be afraid to get involved and to ask questions. I'm still learning every single day. I'm always asking Margie to explain things or to help me understand better. And so you have to just be able to put yourself out there and get involved in whatever way that you're able to do it. So.
Exactly, because I started just with a roadcaster and well, actually, I started with a soundboard and I just started with just speaking, man. So I can totally relate to that. It took some courage, but I started it.
I think the other thing is just, I mean, I agree with Danny. Just take the leap. Don't spend too much time worrying about the hows and whys. Just try it. Just go the next step. And you know what? Learn from what works and what doesn't work, and just keep making it better. I mean, it's a fantastic world that we live in.
It does. And while I'm thinking about it, let's go into more of this Wings for All because it is awesome. But I want to know, what did you think when you first did it? Let's think about the first year you guys did it. Okay, let's go back to that. What did work and what didn't work?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So I think one of the things that didn't work is trying to make everything exactly perfect, right? Like, following each step to the T. I think one of the things that does work is allowing the process to happen. People get lost in the airport. People get stuck on airport machines. People's luggage gets lost. TSA gets backed up. All of those things happen. And if you just go with the flow, it all works out in the end. And so, that was my first experience, is recognizing, and I say this all the time, you know what? It's all going to work out. Everything's going to work out, and it always does. And so I think you just have to have faith in the fact that that's how it is.
Well, I think that's one struggle, definitely. Things not going to plan. But can you tell us some other concepts that those on the spectrum struggle with airlines? And I can give you one. This is the worst, when everything's going on at once. Because next minute you get security check. What? Huh? Who's speaking? I mean, there's so much going on in one setting. I don't do that. You need to slow it down for me, man.
I get it. People with autism and other intellectual and developmental disabilities often struggle with navigating an unfamiliar environment, and especially with the sensory stimulation that's going on inside of an airport, the crowds, the sounds, the lights, the smells, having to take your shoes off, going through TSA screening. Individually, these things might be a little bit overwhelming to anyone, but altogether, it can be downright frightening, and just the more stimulation than you can process. It takes time to process everything that's going on all at once. Like you said, you have so many things going on at one time. It's sort of, you have to kind of just calm down and go through it, and it's going to be okay.
Sam, to kind of piggyback on that, and we've seen it in a couple of airports, but airports are now starting to have sensory rooms. And really, for our folks to take advantage of those sensory rooms, when you get to a certain point, you just can't do it anymore, go take a break.
Oh, I love that. I'll be using that to a T. But from what you've seen when you guys have traveled, I'm just curious for myself, and this is just to help out other parents. What's the best airline that supports autism / intellectual disabilities?
We've been really successful. We have used almost every single airline that is out there, and that's the goal. The goal for Wings for All is not only for the folks that have disabilities, but it's also for the airlines, so they can learn to be better for people with disabilities. And so I think it's mutual relationship. I mean, it really does provide both sides, because somebody needs to recognize if you're getting overwhelmed, what options are out there. We've seen a lot of airports since we started doing this again, that they actually have sensory dogs that walk through the airports now. And that maybe that's just, I wouldn't think it would just be to South Carolina. I would think it to be everywhere, but they have therapy dogs that walk around the airports. And so when somebody gets overwhelmed, that's an option for them. So
they're not just therapy dogs, they're big therapy dogs. Almost every therapy dog I've seen is the biggest dog I've seen. At this point, I'm thinking just calling him a horse. Because one time, I'll be honest, Margie, I was literally traveling to a working trip. I'm not kidding you. This girl had, I think, a physical disability. I saw the biggest Great Dane of my life. I'm not kidding you. He was the size of a horse. I'm thinking, how are you going to put him in a cage? And I'm wondering, man, he must be the most gentle giant out there.
I have one of those. I have one of those horses in my backyard right now.
I got horses too, except they have little kid syndrome where they think they're 3 years old half the time. So can you tell us some of the planning that goes into a Wings for All event? What do you have to do to make it happen?
So there's an enormous amount of coordination and collaboration with the airport, the airlines, the ticket counter folks, TSA, volunteers, vendors. And the airport it's already a well-oiled machine for the most part. So add in our event and some of the uncertainty that comes along with it, not knowing how people with autism or other disabilities might react to the whole experience and being ready to tackle any challenge that pops up. That's a big part of it too. It can be challenging, but the reward comes when you see the faces of the participants and their families when they're coming off the airplane. It's just a wonderful event. We look forward to it each and every time. And just like Margie was saying, we worry about what might happen. Are we prepared for everything? And then, we worry about it, but then no matter what happens, whatever challenges come our way, whatever hiccups happen, it all works out. And it's just beautiful.
It is beautiful. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So Sam, and the other thing we also, work with our rental car agencies. I mean, like to even have additional
We're back. Go on. You can go ahead and continue.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying it's a fantastic collaboration to have not only just the airline, but other agencies outside of the airline that participate in making sure that this is the best experience for everybody that is in attendance.
What rental car agencies have you worked with?
So we've really worked a lot with Enterprise. And we've just got a really great working relationship with them. And in South Carolina, it's been phenomenal. They send volunteers, they give fidget spinners and things like that, so that when folks are kind of getting anxious, they have some things to go through, like squeeze balls and things like that. So they've just been a wonderful partner for us.
That's wonderful, man. I wish we could do that with all enterprises. And Fast Park and Relax too. Have you guys worked with them before? Or do you have that in South Carolina?
I don't think we have that in South Carolina, do we, Danny?
I'm not familiar with that, no.
Oh, well, it's pretty cool. I'll tell you about it. So you would go in like this little shuttle bus, right? You park your car first, pack your bags, or get your bags and luggage, put it on a bus, you sit on the bus, and then you just relax and go to the airport. It's pretty darn cool. It's a pretty darn cool little tool if I say myself.
Yeah, absolutely. All of our airports in South Carolina are fairly small. So South Carolina being a small state, so we don't have to really have a lot of transportation. But, when I fly out of Charlotte or Atlanta or something, they have all of those kind of transportation facilities, from the parking garages to those areas. And it's nice to have that opportunity to not have to walk through all the stuff that we do.
I would agree. So Margie, this is for you only. So can you tell us some of the so you did do some let's try this again. Margie, this is a question for you. So this is about your nonprofit work. So can you tell us some of the nonprofit work you've done?
Yeah, so Sam, I originally worked for an autism specific organization. I worked there for many, many, many years. I started off as doing parent mentor work and working with other families on IEP support. So individual education plan, right? So we worked going into the schools and really trying to help parents navigate this world that's just vastly different. And then I moved into more of a policy work, so making and creating positive policies and procedures for people with autism. And then I kind of went into this world of it not being autism specific and being all disabilities. And so one of the really cool things that we do with we have an MLK grant that we do. And so we don't only work with the disability population, but we work with abused women's services, veterans affairs, folks with food insecurities, you know, all of the above. And so we bring everybody together to do that. I think one of the things that we like to do in our nonprofit work is really bringing the attention to the needs of the community that we're in, and really trying to ensure that people have access to all community supports, whether or not they have disabilities or they don't.
Right. And is there any, I'm not saying you want to, well, is there any other type of people who use that? So in your community specifically, what are the majority? Is it the majority of autism? Is it the majority of Down syndrome? What's the highest population?
I would definitely say autism is probably the highest population, just with the numbers increasing like they have over the years. I mean, just from when my son was diagnosed to where we are today. You know, South Carolina is one of the states that does the NIH study, the National Institute of Health. They really kind of chart autism numbers out of I think it's 3 counties, Danny, correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's 3 counties like Charleston, Dorchester, and Berkeley counties through our medical university. So yeah, we definitely see a large increase in the autism population.
Gotcha. So Danny, now it's your turn. So you also have studied some social and behavioral science. So what is a surprising fact about social and behavioral sciences?
Well, social and behavioral sciences, it provides clues about how the brain functions. But what I was most surprised to learn is how that we can use the study of human behavior, past and present, to make predictions about the future. You learn how to think critically, problem solve, and understand what makes people tick. So you're able to apply what you've learned to a wide-ranging list of careers and job opportunities. So it was a neat thing to study.
Was your son the inspiration?
He actually was. I honestly wasn't sure what I wanted to do in college. And I said, well, you know, what do I already know a little bit about? And I just felt like I could learn more and you know, educate myself even better. So it helped.
So what advice would you give to anyone who is wanting to study social and behavioral sciences? So it doesn't have to be a you situation where your son had autism and then you chose, but anyone who wants to study the social and behavioral sciences to be an autism specialist or to be a social worker.
Sure. A lot of people might underestimate the importance of social and behavioral sciences, so don't let them deter you. You will have a better ability to understand human behaviors and apply that knowledge to improving the quality of life for people and everywhere. I mean, like you said, social work and what I do, even people in the corporate world, they're able to use this information to help understand consumer the reason why consumers buy the things they do and how to market toward them directly. And I know that happens a lot, and we see that ads popping up, but those ads are usually targeted for you for a reason, because they've learned enough about you to know that those are the things that you like. So it's everywhere, even if you don't realize it. It's all around us.
Gotcha. You also got your business administration degree. So how did it feel when you got your business administration degree?
Well, I think I was most proud of the fact that I was able to do it while being a full-time caregiver for my son. I was able to maintain a 4.0, and I was surprised that I could do that. I didn't think I could do it, but I did. So during the entire MBA program at the Citadel, it was wonderful. It was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. It was tough, don't get me wrong. But I thought I would feel smarter, but I was probably most made painfully aware of just how much I don't know. There's so much knowledge out there. And even though I have a master's degree, there's still a ton more to learn. So I think life is just a learning process. We keep learning every day.
I agree with you, but I got to ask you this, and you're probably going to be biased clearly because you studied it, but does you think social and behavioral sciences have more to learn compared to other academic studies? So maybe it's bigger than history. Maybe it's bigger than elementary education.
Perhaps, and the way the world evolves, things change, and we need to learn more. So I would say yes. We need probably to learn more about social and behavioral sciences. Numbers are numbers. Emotions are varied, and there's a lot involved there.
I understand. So I got to touch more about your boys. So how did you feel when your son got the autism diagnosis?
Well, I would like to tell you that I felt receiving his diagnosis simply validated what we kind of already knew. We figured that it was time to get to work now, find ways to help him. So I felt relief when he was diagnosed. I'm not sure that my husband felt the same way. He probably took time to sort of process it all, but I felt like I was already ready for that diagnosis. I felt it in my heart that he had autism, and when they said it, that's what it was. It just again validated what I already knew. So we started looking for ways that we could ways to help him, and so we didn't want to waste any more time and just get to work trying to find out how we could help make life better for him.
Yeah, so I think that my road with my son was maybe a little different. And that's what's so phenomenal about people with autism, is that you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, right? So the pathway of that is totally different. I think providing caregiver relief to a father who had a son with autism when I was younger, it was a little eye-awakening. And I think one of the things that I had to note to myself was all the things that the doctors said to me that day had to kind of be thrown out the window, because it didn't define who my son was. That diagnosis didn't define him. He was still that same child that I brought home. He was still the same child that was active, a lot more active than I thought he was going to be. Boys are just y'all were just genuinely active as younger ages. But it for me, it was just a diagnosis, and the diagnosis didn't mean anything. It was still the child that I brought home the day after I had him. So
I hear it. I definitely agree with you on that. That was the same way my mother believes. She thought, well, he has autism, but guess what? What else can he do? Let's see. He loves pro wrestling. Oh my goodness. He's a great student, and he's thriving in college life currently. If that's not enough to get rid of the diagnosis, I don't know what is. Not get rid of, but it's still there, but it's not overshadowing my life.
Yeah, I think that autism is just a piece. It's just a piece. There are also all these incredible accolades that go with a person. And so, a diagnosis is, in my opinion, is just a funding source, right? So it's just a piece of who you are. And it's a fantastic piece of who you are, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
it's
it's a piece of pie, but it's not the whole pie.
You're exactly right. I always, when my son got to an age where we actually started talking about his diagnosis, when we told him, he asked if there was something wrong with him. And we were like, absolutely not. That's your superpower, buddy. Like, I wish I could retain information the way that you retain information. So yeah, that's a superpower. And we're extremely proud of our son.
That's awesome. So for both of you, what advice would you give to parents who are just lost and do not know what to do? Because I believe there's a parent out there right now that just knows autism for what society, and they got the diagnosis. And even though we're saying amazing statements, they're still scared. And I think to an extent, parents have the right to be, because my mom was. For the listeners, C105, meet my mother, but she admitted she thought her life was over because she never thought I was going to have a son with autism who might not be able to cook an egg.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, what I think one of the things is recognizing that you have a network. Like, there is a network of parents out there, and it is scary. I mean, when you first get the diagnosis, it is scary. It's not. I mean, Danni said, it's time to get to work. It's time to start looking for resources and doing those things and being proactive. But it's okay to be scared. When you have a child, in general, as a mother, when you have a child and then you kind of learn that child's going to learn differently and is going to maybe have a little more struggles in certain areas than a child that doesn't have a disability, is a little scary. But recognize that you have a network, and then that network is going to be what guides you through all of the different transitions in life. And then, I think at a certain age, there's a level for parents that we have to recognize that we've got to kind of let go and watch the flourishment of our loved ones. So
I can relate to that, Margie. My mom's still working on that as I am in college right now, and I don't think she can go a day without calling me. So sorry, Mom, love you, but can we not call every day?
yeah, I mean, listen, sorry, mom, I didn't mean to bring that up, but I've found
Your
that
fault, Margie. Shut up.
I found that with my son is that I've had to recognize he's 21 and he's got to live his life. And he's got to live it the way he wants to live it and not the way that I think he should. And so it's hard. It's hard as a mom. You got to give your mom some reprieve there, but at the same time, letting go a little bit allows you to see how successful they are.
That's true. I know when we first got Christian's diagnosis, when they told us he had autism, we were overwhelmed. I honestly thought that we were the only family in Columbia, in the Columbia area, that had a child with autism. That's how much I did not know about autism. So I would tell parents to say, look, don't spin your wheels. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask. Ask for guidance from people who are knowledgeable. Get to work. Don't wait for the government to step in and tell you what to do. Go ahead and start reading books. Find out everything you can find out about autism, the different methodologies behind the different treatments that are available, and then start your journey to find whatever works for your child, because what works for your child may not work for someone else's child. And it may take a lot of trial and error to figure this out. And don't be afraid to make mistakes or to even say, you know what, we need to start over. Just get started and keep going.
Can you go more, Danni? Can you do me a favor and go into more what you mean by spin your wheels? I'm a little confused on that.
Sure. I seemed, when we first got his diagnosis, there was a part of me that just wanted to sit and be sad about it. I wanted to just sit there and say, well, gosh, poor me, poor us, poor Christian. What's life going to be like? Why did this happen? Why us? And I felt like that was a lot of just spinning in, just like a car stuck in the mud, spinning the wheels. We were just doing a lot of worrying about a lot of things that we didn't have a control over. And it was time to just let that go and say, look, we need to stop. It's time to stop grieving and worrying and just start getting to work, because it's not the end of the world. He's, like Margie said, he's still that sweet little boy that he was the day before he got his diagnosis.
You can use this analogy too. I just saw this because it's fresh in my mind. Before I started recording, I saw a guy kind of got stuck in the ditch, but eventually someone's going to pull him out. That's kind of another way to think about it.
Absolutely.
So speaking of resources and certain aspects, what were some of the programs and supports that you use to help your child grow and develop? Do you guys use ABA, speech therapy, occupational, the Sunrise program? What are some things you use to help your son, or do you use any professional help?
I think,
Go
go ahead. You want to go?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I think for, in South Carolina, ABA services weren't really available probably at the infancy of when Christian and Wesley were diagnosed, right? So I think that it was a lot of parents that really worked to advocate for systems change to ensure that there was both a public and a private funding process to provide ABA therapy. So I think that we were the family that kind of tried a little bit of everything. Like we, as long as it wasn't invasive and it wasn't going to affect Wesley in a negative manner, we tried the gluten-free, casein-free diet. I will tell you, as an adult now, he tells us that he doesn't like to eat bread. He actually thrives not eating bread. We tried enzymes and just seeing whether or not it would help him break down some food products that maybe his bowel and his gut just didn't agree with. We tried speech and OT, early intervention, physical therapy, ABA. There was a program that we tried that was a little bit different outside of ABA therapy, and it worked wonders. But I think what was most important for us, Sam, is that we had a team of individuals, whether it was a speech therapist or whether it was a school. We had a team of individuals that believed in Wesley. He believed in Wesley and all of his successes. And so I think that's, really.
And I believe in Wesley.
Yeah, he's a cool cat. I asked him if he wanted to come down here.
Well, I agree with Margie and what they did, and we did the similar thing. We did a little bit of everything, and then we stuck with what worked as long as it was helpful. So we did the speech therapy, occupational, music, sensory integration. We tried the diets, play therapy, art therapy, behavioral therapies. So we wanted to expose him to as many different things as we could. Again, as long as they were not harmful or intrusive, we wanted to expose him to everything, and then find out what worked. So if there were one or two things that worked with one treatment, we would keep that. If there were a couple of things that didn't work, we would just, abandon that. So we just wanted to gravitate toward what he was successful at and keep moving in that direction. So what works for other families, it looks different for everyone. What worked for us may not work for someone else, but what we did worked for us, and we're glad we did it.
Were there any points that you had to use your own therapy? So, for example, maybe, okay, this therapy didn't work. This therapy didn't work. This therapy didn't work. You know what? Mama Bear's going to step in. I'm going to try something that might benefit my son, but this is because I know him and I know this will benefit him.
Well, parents are the experts. And again, we would try some things and keep a few of those things from one treatment. Like we would try floor play, where you get on the floor and you just play games, and he seemed to enjoy that. And so we would keep doing that. And maybe some other therapies didn't do that. And so we would just, gravitate toward what he seemed to enjoy and what seemed to be successful for him. And so it sort of turned into our own type of therapy from pieces of different parts. So, and that's what works. That's what worked for us.
And
Have you ever heard of a play therapist?
Yeah.
I believe that's sort of like the floor play. I mean, you come in and you just do things in a natural environment and see how they gravitate toward that, if I'm not mistaken. If you might be able to give us a little bit more information about that.
Well, the reason being, I said, it just sounded very similar, and it's kind of a plug-in and a way to collaborate with someone I know, and it sounds appealing to both of you, and you guys can give this a try for your son if you're interested. So I know a guy named Jack Mason Goodall who is in the United Kingdom, but he does a lot of virtual services. And for the listeners and for you guys, if you're interested, C203, playing around with Jack Mason Goodall, but he's a play therapist, and it's the coolest thing alive. He likes to refer it as he hops into their world. So if your son starts rocking, okay, he'll rock with them. If your son starts, talking about dinosaurs, okay, he'll talk about dinosaurs. Pretty cool, in my opinion. It might benefit your son. It's just something to give you guys. I guess then you can call it a little present.
Well,
So
thank you.
Yeah, so we did something very similar to that. We didn't have anybody here in South Carolina that did it, but we went up around Raleigh, up in North Carolina, and really kind of worked through some of those things to really kind of recognize where he was in his world and how we could incorporate ourselves there as well. And I think that it was very eye-opening for Wesley's father and I to recognize that there are other things out there other than sitting at a table and doing a 20-20-20 schedule. I think we really kind of engrossed our son into normal day-to-day activity, recognized when he couldn't do it and recognized when he could do it. And we kept encouraging him to participate in that world, and it really worked out in his favor.
That's incredible, man. Now, folks, we'll be right back. We're here an ad from the Doug Flutie Jr. Autism Foundation, so let's get to it. At the Doug Flutie Autism Foundation in Massachusetts, people are receiving hope. The organization was established in 1998 by Doug Flutie, former quarterback for Boston College and the NFL, and his wife Lori, in the memory of their son Dougie, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. The goal of the Flutie Foundation is to improve the quality of life for those with autism and their families. The biggest action they like to do is give grants and host their annual Stars on the Spectrum golf event. Our goal is to offer chances for physical and social activity outside of work or school, a path for education or employment during the day, and the resources needed to always feel safe, supported, and informed, the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation says. Make sure to visit them on their website, www.flutiefoundation.org. That's www.flutiefoundation.org. Or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even YouTube to see all the stars they have to offer. And you never know, you might be able to meet one of their stars if you are so kind and they allow you to do so. Finally, if this was a testimony, this would be my testimony for the Doug Jr. Autism Foundation. All right, folks, we're back. You might meet Doug Flutie there. You never know. So, Margie, I do want to know a little more about your caregiving. So, in your opinion, did caregiving help you out for your future? If so, how?
So it did. So my sister, my oldest sister, while she was in school, she was a registered nurse, and while she was in school, there was a gentleman that was in the military, and he had a son with autism, and so he worked overnight, and so my sister would work overnight with, or provide caregiving overnight to this young man. And so as she started kind of going through clinicals, it kind of changed the times that she was available to be there for him. And so I was 17 and she said, I just think that you're going to be fantastic with this gentleman. And I think I learned a lot. I learned how incredible it was when I was trying to hide dry cereal, Sam, in a cabinet in the kitchen, and I would put it in a different cabinet, and the young man that I worked with knew what cabinet I put it in by the way that when I opened up the cabinet door. And so I learned so much about how incredibly smart this guy was, knowing just by sound what cabinet I'd put that dry cereal. So his dad had tasked me to not let him eat dry cereal like all day long. And so I thought that I was going to be witty and hide it in a cabinet. But man, that kid knew every single cabinet and the noises it made. And so I think that recognizing at that age how incredible it was. You know, I had when I was in high school, Sam, I had a young man, to be honest with you, I mean, I graduated high school in the early 90s. And so I had a young man that I actually didn't know that we had a special education classroom at our high school because they were so segregated from the rest of the school. And I had a significant operation done. And so I had to leave all of my classes early because I was trying to get from one class to the other without having all these kids hitting my leg that would cause additional damage to it. And so I met this young man that was in my school, and he used crutches. And I left Algebra 2 every day the same time, and he was leaving early to get to his next class. And we became really good friends. And ultimately, we would race each other down the hallway, me in my wheelchair and him using his crutches. And fast forward, I've graduated. I'm at my 30-year class reunion right now, and we're still very good friends, and we talk at least twice a week. And so I think that all of that has kind of prepared me to love the population that I work with.
Yeah, but you said they were segregated?
Yeah, so they were in totally different
That just
I
makes
mean,
me mad, but continue.
oh yeah, it makes me mad now. It's a totally different world 30 years ago versus where we are today. And so there was a classroom on the other side of the cafeteria. And in high school, a lot of students don't eat in the cafeteria. You go to the canteen, right? And then you go outside. This classroom was on the other side of the cafeteria, and we weren't even aware of it. And so now, you know, it's totally different. It's full inclusion, and it looks so totally different. And so, but I think when I was in high school, really learning these two men made me very successful in loving this population.
That's pretty cool. So I want to go back to Danni, picking on her now. Sorry, Danni, not really. No, I love messing with you. But I heard you use a lot of through YouTube, Lawyer Lisa. So how did Lawyer Lisa help you?
Well, lawyer Lisa is an attorney here in South Carolina. Her name is Lisa Hostetler Brown. And she helped us be able to sleep better at night, honestly, because knowing that we have a plan in place once my husband and I are no longer able to care for Christian. Our plan right now is to have him live with us for as long as he would like to do so. And for as long as we're able to help, to help him and to take care of him and to make sure he's safe. But knowing that if something were to happen to us, there are steps that'll be taken to make sure that his future is safe and secure. That's what brings us peace, because we spent way too many years worrying about what's going to happen if something happens to us, who's going to take care of him. And it almost makes you just freeze in place and not know what to do. A lot of parents may not reach out and get a plan in place because they're just scared. I mean, we just were in fear because we didn't know if we would be able to come up with a plan. We didn't know what was available. So she walked us through all of the different options and made it very easy, made it a pleasant experience. And we just took a deep breath when we walked out of our office that day, when we had everything in place, and we're like, wow, we should have done this years ago. So if you're a parent and you're worried about what's going to happen in the future and you're just so scared that you're not doing anything, that's the worst thing you can do. You have to at least go out and talk to an attorney and find out what your options are. And then they can help guide you and make the decisions that'll make his future as bright as possible.
And truth be told, I think that's a safety net that's needed, because I think I have a fixated interest on safety nets, because that's always helped me a lot. That's a tool in the toolbox I like to use a lot. But I think that tool specifically with this case is needed, because you never know what could happen to you in the next few minutes, Danni. I mean, I hate to be honest with you, but you may not be here tomorrow. And what's happening to him? He can take care of himself to a point, clearly.
Right. Exactly. And another thing I'd like to mention is that in our minds, I think we always thought if something happened to us, there would have to be one or two people who would make decisions for Christian. And that's where we were wrong. Lawyer Lisa helped us understand that you can create your own team of folks who can make decisions, work together to make decisions. So it wouldn't be up to just one person. You wouldn't have to worry about, well, there's just one person that we can depend on. And I think that's what stops a lot of folks from getting getting a special plan in place, is because they think they just need to depend on one person, but you don't. You can have a team of folks that can get together and help make the right decisions. So that was important for us.
That is pretty cool, in my opinion. You need that team. You need that team because, as my mother said, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise any kid, in my opinion. Yes,
absolutely.
I want to piggyback on something that Danni said. I know this is really kind of her topic, but what? One of the things that we've learned here in South Carolina is about supported decision and what that really means. What does supported decision making mean? If I was going to, if something was wrong with my car, I wouldn't call my mom. She's not a mechanic. I would call my grandfather because he was the mechanic, right? If there was something wrong legally, I wouldn't call my grandfather because he was a mechanic. I would call my mom because she was, the deputy clerk of court. So I think that you learn very much like how we navigate things. We go to the doctor because, we have a sore throat. We have to teach our kids how to do the same thing. The ARC at our national level has a great program. It's called Center for Future Planning. And it's a really great resource for parents to be able to go on there and kind of really start talking about future planning and what that looks like. So kind of want to give additional resources if we could.
Right. And you guys do a lot of resources through a lot of events. So I got to hear about some of these events, first of all. So the first one I heard about was Disability Advocacy Day. So can you tell us a bit about Disability Advocacy Day?
I'd be happy to. Disability Advocacy Day, it's held on the steps of the South Carolina State House on the first Wednesday of March. And it's a grassroots effort to educate our governor and legislators about the lives and challenges and the needs of South Carolinians with disabilities and their families. So we invite the public to come out, lawmakers, community partners, advocates, self-advocates. We invite them to come out to attend this event to bring about a call to action to help preserve some of the services and the supports that people with disabilities need. So you can learn a lot more about this event at scpdo.org. And it's wonderful. We have folks get up on stage or on the steps of the State House and talk about their lives. And they make they help you understand that it's not just something you hear about. These are real folks, and these challenges that they have. We need to think about ways to make life better, and this is where they have a chance to get out and tell you about those challenges. So it's a great day. It's a great event.
And
Well,
it's over 30 years, Sam. We've been doing this for over 30 years. In the state of South Carolina, we did have 2 years of COVID that just really didn't allow or afford us to do it. But we were back again this year and or this past year, and so we're going to do it again this year coming. So it's a great event. It's a great event, and the weather's always nice.
Let me ask you this then, because I want to know about it more. Was there ever a time where you believe that actually someone listened during Disability Advocacy Day? Like maybe they weren't like, oh my gosh, he's changed my life, but they left feeling inspired.
I leave feeling inspired every single year because we have a team of self-advocates that get up and they talk about what successes they have, whether they're in a college process, whether they are in a post-secondary school, whether they've gotten a job, whether they've moved out into independent living, or they've been successful in driving a vehicle. I mean, or they graduated from high school. I mean, every year we get somebody up there that talks their walk of life, right? They talk about their walk of life and all of their successes. And I think that for me empowers me to do more and push more and be better. So,
well, you got some self-advocate who could probably do it for you. Me.
You should come to South Carolina, Sam. You should come to South Carolina.
I'm thinking I want to work with you guys, but we'll talk about that more after we're done here. All righty. So I'm going to know about another program called the Everyday Living Program. So what are some of the stuff you teach during the Everyday Living Program?
So I think one of the really cool things about the everyday living is we talk about positive sexual health. We talk about washing clothes. We talk about how to make a bed. We talk about how to cook. We talk about finances. We talk about hygiene. We talk about all the aspects of being independent and what that looks like, because the goal is not to place everybody in a group home or in a residential setting that way, but to teach those independence. And so part of independence is knowing when somebody's taking advantage of you, or when, you may look at somebody and want to hug them, but that's not an appropriate person to hug. And so we talk a lot about those type of things. COVID kind of wreaked a little bit of havoc on that program, but we hope to get that started again.
Okay, well, let's ask then, how can you teach? What are some of the techniques you use to teach on the Everyday Living Program? Teach me how to cook. I know you have to go more in depth, clearly, but give me a preview of the session.
Yeah, so I think it's step by step. We break everything down. So the process of, say, cooking a hamburger steak, right? We talk about breaking it down to the very minute amount of the process, how to crack an egg appropriately, how to use a fork to make that egg fluffy, how to, cut an onion, but we do it step by step by step by step.
I know I'm going to ask you this again, but can you tell us a step?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the first step is to go to your refrigerator, open up your carton of eggs, grab one egg, go to your cabinet, grab a bowl, go to your, fork drawer, get a fork, tap the egg 3 times on the side of that bowl, put your thumb into the egg, pull it apart, throw the eggshell away in the trash, and then take your fork, put it in, push it down, and whip it around. So, it is step by step by step.
First of all, I love you said whip it around, because you're making me think of like the Nene back in 2016. I'm so old school. I don't follow the popular trends anymore. So
I get it.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy sometimes how trends can change just like that. So you have the Best Buddies program, which I think is funny. Well, not funny. I think it's fascinating. My bad. Well, let's try again. You have a Best Buddies program, which is fascinating. So how do you pair buddies in the Best Buddies program? Do you use surveys? I mean, how do you match people?
Well, we do. We use a survey. We pair folks. We work with the University of South Carolina and other universities throughout the state, but we will find folks at the university who are interested in becoming a peer buddy, and they will fill out a form describing what their interests are, what their experiences have been, what kind of activities they like, and then we reach out to our folks and who would be buddies, and they would fill out a similar survey, and then we would sort of match the peer buddy with a buddy based on the similar interests and experiences and activities that they enjoy. And then we would have events each month and get-togethers. And not only that, but the peer buddy, this college student, would actually reach out to the buddy twice a week, I believe. And so they have some sort of connection there, either by phone, in person, go have lunch somewhere. It's a great program. And I think it's pretty awesome.
Oh man, can you tell us? You don't have to say names, but why don't you tell us some of the friends that have been made? But you can use fake names. So maybe his name in general is Christian, but we can just call him Frank out of privacy.
Margie, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, so I mean, I can actually use my son as an example. I actually asked his permission before we came into the podcast to make sure that he was okay with me doing that, because I think it's so funny sometimes as parents, we just naturally want to do that, and I think we have to ask permission, especially after they turn 18, right? Because maybe they didn't want that information airing out in everybody else's world. But Wesley had a buddy last year. They both love sports. Wesley loves sports. It doesn't matter what kind of sport it is, whether it's football, soccer, baseball. He's really into baseball right now, because my brother is really into the Atlanta Braves and watching that. So they talk sports all the time, but he was paired with a young lady who loves sports as well. And so they would go have lunch together. They had the opportunities to talk about what Gamecock football was doing, which he loves Gamecock football. That's a staple here in South Carolina. And so he really had those opportunities to go out and do things.
That's
I think one of the
incredible.
most
I wish I could have that in my life, man. I never had that. We had a buddy bench at our school, but never a program. I had one friend who in school, and I'll say his name, he doesn't mind me doing that. BJ Yoho, for the listeners, see alike yet opposites. Yeah, alike yet opposites by BJ Yoho. More information, but we, I think, share some similar interests and beliefs and humor, but there's some holes in the wall in the friendship. Let's call it that. But I still love the guy. It's just that sometimes I wish I could talk to someone about pro wrestling. And for that one, for the listeners, see 154 to 157, the WWE specials, more information. But talking about wrestling for 20 hours or maybe the whole day would make me happy. I just know for him, it might be kind of a little on the awkward side.
Yeah, so one of the friendships, Sam, that really kind of stands out to me, there was a young lady and she used a wheelchair for mobility. She was nonverbal. She was very self-expressive, but just didn't use language or didn't use verbalization as her language. Had the same peer buddy from the university for 4 years. And when that peer buddy got married, she was a bridesmaid in the wedding and was a part of that. And so I think that it forms lifetime and long-term friendships. But yeah, you're right. I mean, my son can talk to me about sports, but again, it kind of goes back into what I was saying earlier. It's like I wouldn't go to my grandfather and talk about a legal issue, right? But my son's got a network, and he's found that when he wants to talk sports, he talks with my brother, because he can talk they can go back and forth and rap about it, and they understand it. He asked me different questions, so
I understand that. So you also have supported decision making. So what is the supported decision making?
Well, this is a supported decision making is a collaborative project that includes several organizations in South Carolina. We have ABLE SC, Disability Rights SC, Family Connection, South Carolina Developmental Disabilities Council, and us, the ARC of South Carolina. And so the goal of this project or program is to encourage families to understand that they can explore all of the options before getting guardianship for their loved one. So guardianship is often very expensive and it's intended to be permanent. So we want folks to understand that you need to seek to increase awareness about supported decision-making in South Carolina and promote the alternatives to guardianship that'll allow individuals with disabilities to retain control of their lives, because guardianship doesn't really allow that. You're not allowed to vote with guardianship. I mean, there's so many restrictions that come along with guardianship, and a lot of folks just aren't aware of it. So we provide informational materials, family trainings, professional trainings, family counseling sessions, and systemic advocacy. So you can learn about it at scsupporteddecisionmaking.org. And I know Margie's got some more information to tell you about supported decision making.
Yeah, so Sam, in South Carolina, we look at guardianship as the last resort, is the very last resort. I go back and I keep saying this same thing over and over again. Like, I wouldn't ask my grandfather about this, about a legal issue, right? So we need to find support. In our IEP system, when somebody's about to turn 18, there is a box in that IEP that says, do you have legal guardianship? And so it triggers the parents to think that they have to have legal guardianship. In South Carolina, we have so many alternatives. We have ways that we can support our loved ones in the IEP process after they are 18. Just simply by saying, hey, do you want me to be in your IEP team meeting, right? We have ways to support people to help navigate their funds through rep payee programs and different programs like that. So you don't have to automatically reach the most restrictive process. You can look at the alternatives. And so I think this supported decision-making is a really great opportunity for parents to recognize that you don't have to take somebody's rights from them. You know what? You support them in making the best choices for them. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying with your mom calling you every day. I still call my son every day too, Sam. So
You guys need to stop it. I want my freedom. Knock it off.
Absolutely. And that's what supported decision making is about, is you having access to doing everything that you want to do and you making those choices for yourself and us respecting those choices.
Thank you. So you also have a walk called Walk This Way. And first of all, is that inspiration from Aerosmith? And is there any Aerosmith fans in the house that is not me?
I love Aerosmith, but it was not inspired by Walk This Way by Aerosmith. I think that
dang it. I was really hoping that.
I love Aerosmith. I saw them a lot in my younger days. So Danni, you want to take it over? I know you're prepared for that one.
Well, Walk This Way is about getting people in the community together to promote and increase physical activity, healthy eating, and making friends, new friendships. And so it includes people with and without disabilities. You can walk or use a wheelchair, roll with one another in the community, and walking groups. And so what we would like to do, I know that COVID put a stop to a lot of things, and it's been quite difficult to get folks out in the community again. But what we like to do is find folks who live in similar areas. Like, I live in Chapin. There may be some other families that live here in this area who might want to walk, and we could go to a local park and walk together. And then we have a Facebook page where we can track our progress, and we can list of activities that we can do. And so we try to pair people in different locations that can get together and sort of become friends and just enjoy life and be healthy at the same time.
It's Best Buddies program through a walk, almost.
Sort of. Sort of.
That's just the way I understand it. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, please.
That's a good way to look at it. That's exactly what it is, because it's about friendship and just getting out in the community and doing things together. COVID made a lot of folks not want to do things. They just wanted to stay at home and shelter. And this would be a great way to get out and get back into the swing of things.
Okay, I like that. We're going to hear more about these events, but we got to hear from another sponsor, and that is the Rock 96.1 radio station in Bloomington, Indiana. So let's get to it. We want to thank 96.1 The Quarry, especially David and Dan Hayes, for being a gold sponsor for our Summerfest. 96.1 residents in Bloomington, Indiana, and like Autism Rocks and Rolls, they rock and roll too. Visit their website at rock961fm.com to hear them out. And when they're on the station, be sure to listen to them live on their website or catch them on the radio in your car. If you like Kiss, Queen, 80s rock, or ZZ Top, I think you have found your station. 96.1 also supports our veterans, so you should support them too. Visit 96.1. All right, folks, and we're back, and you'll definitely rock out if you catch them. So let me try again. I gotta do that a lot better. All right, folks, we're back, and you'll definitely rock out if you hear them. So we got to go back to these events. So one of these events is probably the hardest to explain, and there's no easy way to say it. It's called Life Lessons and the Elephant in the Room, and that talks about sexual health. There's just no easy way to say it. So what is the hardest thing to explain, or what is the hardest concept to explain during your life lessons and the Elephant in the Room program?
So I would say the hardest thing to explain, because we're really kind of training not only parents, but we're also training individuals with disabilities, and we're training staff kind of all at the same time. Okay. And in different subsets, Sam, but I think one of the hardest things is that we have to train people that people with disabilities are not asexual, that they do crave relationships. They want relationships. They want those things. I think one of the things, and we have a great bunch of videos from people with disabilities that talked all about their desire to have those relationships and what those relationships look like for them. And so I think it's a hard thing to teach somebody that's not a disability that a person is not asexual.
Fair enough. But how do you show them that a relationship is not all fun and games? I mean, it's fun to a point, granted. I won't lie to you there. But there comes a lot more there comes a serious side with relationships, trust, communication. How do you show them that? That's not just all and just, oh, come here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually use a curriculum when we're working with our folks with disabilities, and it's called Circles. And we talk about what's a good touch, what's a bad touch, who is appropriate to hug, who's appropriate to kiss, all of that stuff. We talk all about that, and it's a great curriculum that we use.
Send me that. I want to see it, because I like to just use that as my as a source, and to share that out there with you. I mean, not with you, but for you.
Yeah, it's a great curriculum. And it's a national curriculum. We actually, when we were creating these programs, we actually researched all over the world. We found really incredible programs in Australia, all over the world, that had really positive sexual health programs for people with lifelong disabilities.
Thank you. And I
Yeah,
appreciate that. So
absolutely.
you also have this program called ALERT. What does ALERT stand for?
ALERT stands for Autism Law and Emergency Response Training, and this program provides training for first responders so that they can better serve people with autism in an emergency situation. Every training session is led by a first responder who has a family member on the autism spectrum, and the program addresses effective communication methods while providing practical skills to first responders on how to successfully interact with a person on the autism spectrum in an emergency. Because, in an emergency, a lot of things are going on at one time, and we don't want something bad to happen. So we want our first responders to be best prepared to interact with someone who has autism.
That's awesome. That's, first of all, needed. Okay, let's try this. So what is a law enforcer? What is something that a law enforcement person needs to do
Well, they may need to understand that a person may not be verbal, and so they may need to write something down. They may need to have a little whiteboard with them so that they can allow a person who's not able to verbally communicate to offer them the chance to write something down. And that's not something that I think most first responders think about. And we teach them tips on how to de-escalate a situation instead of doing something that may make a person with autism respond negatively to. They would be able to say, okay, just calm down. Everything's going to be okay. Just a lot of reassurance, a lot of repeating questions or repeating instructions. Because like for my example, my son, you may be able to tell him a list of commands or say, hey, go over here, be still, don't do this. And he wouldn't understand all of that. You may need to just say one command at a time and understand that folks might need a little more time to process the information. So I think
because
that's
what drives me crazy isn't when officer says, freeze, get on the ground. That's too much. I want to say, it's just like, first we need to freeze and then let's get on the ground. Let's not do both at the same time. I don't get how you can freeze and get on the ground. You can, I mean, how do you do that? You have to stand to freeze and then get on the ground. I mean, either one, it's a first and then. It's not double timing it.
Well, recognizing that people don't always follow multi-step instructions, right, that are spit out at them. You know, 3 different instructions going into your brain and turning a dryer on in your brain, and you having to decipher what all 3 of those instructions are to make a sentence to actually comply with it in the timeline that it takes you to do it, right? So really one simple instruction and allowing the time for you to process the information and do the action that they're asking them to. And I think the other thing is to for them to recognize when somebody has autism, and recognize that they're not, them reaching towards your badge or reaching towards something that's shiny or something else doesn't mean that they're trying to injure you. The worst thing that we want to happen is for somebody on the spectrum to be injured in some type of way, just because the knowledge base isn't there by our first responders. And we love training our first responders. We're so thankful for them.
Or they fight back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not because they don't know. They think in their mind it's self-defense.
Absolutely. And so we want to form a partnership between our folks on the spectrum and our first responders to make sure that both have the adequate tools in their toolbox to interact appropriately, right?
Yes, ma'am. 100%. So your last program, and I think this was very, I could have used this at a certain time frame, not now, but probably back at 16, probably. What does your CIRS program, SCIRS program, do to help those with developmental disabilities live independently?
I guess I probably need to hit unmute, right? So this is a program that really talks about independent living, right? And so, what the goal is, and we have so much more technology now. Let's think about the technology that we all use on a daily basis.
Zoom,
Ring doorbell cameras, something on our cell phones, like whatever else it is. And so what it does is it uses technology to create more independent living. So for example, there may be a sensor underneath the bed, and if somebody gets out of the bed and they've been out of the bed for say 2 hours, maybe there's a thunderstorm going on outside, and maybe that thunderstorm, lightning and stuff is making them anxious. So it allows for technology to be used so that person can remain in that home, not need 24-hour-a-day staff, but has a staff that is remote that can chime in and say, you know what, Margie, is there something I can help you with? Or what about an automatic pill dispenser, so to remind you to take your medicine, or some type of sensor that tells you to turn off the stove after you've made a pizza in the oven, right? Like, oops, I forgot to turn it off, right? That's a danger, but what we want to do is use technology to allow for more independence. And the second part of that is really, we have folks that maybe work together in some type of enclave situation, or maybe they both work at the Walmart and they want to live together. So there's no need for a 4-bed, 2-bath group home when we can have 2 people. Danni and I are friends, and we want to get an apartment together, no different than, a college roommate does, or a roommate after college, right? And so Danni says, I want a backyard that's got a fence in it because I want a dog. And I say, I want a gas fireplace to keep my toes warm in the wintertime, right? And so that we work to create budgets and help locate the appropriate place for somebody to live that's within their the people that want to live together within their budget, and then use technology to help them successfully be independent.
Just out of curiosity, could you and Danni be roomies, or would you two kill each other by the end of the night?
No, I think we could definitely be roommates. We work really well together, so.
Gotcha. I don't know. Danni seems a little quiet. You seem like the loudmouth of the group.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. We work really well together.
Yeah. Absolutely. It would be great.
A lot of too much parties going on? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding on that one.
Maybe 20 years ago, Sam. Maybe 20 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe just a tinge now, too. It's okay.
I figured. Hey, adults gotta have fun too. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
All right, so we're gonna wrap her up here, ladies. These are just for fun. So, what is your paradise meal or favorite food, and why is it your favorite?
I'll go. There's a small restaurant here in Chapin where I live, and it's called Higher Ground. And they have what's called a Higher Ground flip. And I swear, every time I go there, I always go with the intention of ordering something different just to try. But this Higher Ground flip it's delicious. So it's grilled chicken smothered with a little bit of peppers and onions, 4 cheeses, and they have this ranch sauce that they make in house that is delicious. You always have to get extra sauce. And it's just great. And the restaurant's wonderful. A great group of people that own it, and just love it.
Everything about that sounds good except the onions. I don't do onions. I'm sorry. I am not an onion person.
It's
I don't know how
okay.
y'all do it. I'm like, it just tastes like paper. And I'm gonna do fresh garden tomatoes. I'll do like tomato sauce, but I'm not doing a fresh garden tomato. It's too bitter, sour.
Well, that's okay.
So, Sam, I want to kind of piggyback. I know you're from Indiana, correct? So my husband's from Indiana, just so you know. He moved down here. We met each other, and he came to visit a friend who was at Fort Jackson, which is one of our Army bases, and he has stayed here. And so 23 years later, we're still together. So you know what? I'm a Southern girl at heart, right? So, you know, Southerners, we love to fry things. I don't know what it is, but we love to fry things. And so I will tell you, my favorite is probably a fried pork chop, mashed potatoes with my mom's homemade gravy that she makes in her cast iron skillet after she gets done making those fried pork chops, and fresh little June peas. I'm a big fan of LeSueur peas out of a can, but and I think it reminds me of my youth and my fun times with my mom. And so it's just comfort food and Southern food. Southern food's very comforting, Sam. So
Oh, I can relate to that. There's a lot of reminiscence of Southern here. So I got you. So, but out of curiosity, did you do a lot of cooking with your mother?
I did. And so probably the reason I know how to cook is because of her. So I don't fry a lot of things in my house, but it was always a special treat for us growing up, was to be able to have like fried pork chops or a fried cube steak or something along those lines. And so
I understand. Now, what's your favorite movie or TV show, and why do you like it?
oh, Danny, I'm going first on this one. So my favorite movie is Dark Phoenix by X-Men. And I'll tell you why. It shows she's so strong, and she's so protective over the ones that she loves. And I kind of relate to that as a person. Like I feel like I'm a very strong person, and I'm very protective over people that I love. And so I love, and plus I kind of dork out a little bit on any kind of Marvel movie. So that's where my husband and I have in common.
Do you like, is Hulk your favorite?
Um, I mean, I love Hulk because, you know, when I was younger, we used to have the Lou Ferrigno Hulk. I don't know if you know who that is, but like the original Hulk. Um, and so we used to have a TV show that we would watch every Saturday, and it was the Hulk. But I would probably say I'm an Iron Man girl all the way. So what about you, Danny?
Oh, I'll just jump right in there then. I like a lot of comedies, and it may be a little bit corny, but I love Office Space and I could watch it 100 times. I've probably already seen it 100 times. And I think it's still an accurate portrayal of modern office culture. So although I work from home and I have an amazing job, I can see the corporate redundancy and bureaucracy that other people face in the workplace. And so the movie's still relevant. It's hilarious in my opinion, and I could watch it again tonight. It's great.
What about The Office? Are you a person who digs The Office too?
I do like The Office. Not the British version. I've actually not seen that one, but the American version, we've watched that a few
Yeah, the
times.
one with who plays Gru? What's his name?
Which one?
Despicable Me. What's the guy that plays his name? He's Gru. I just can't remember his name.
I can't either, and that's horrible.
You know who I'm talking about though?
And he's in the Office,
Yeah,
little
The Office, the American one with
yeah.
guy who he I don't remember what he looks like. He's the one who sung "Staying Alive" in The Office.
Why don't I remember that?
It's gonna kill me. Dang it.
Steve Carell, y'all. Steve Carell.
There you go. Yes, that's who I'm talking about. Thank you, Steve Carell.
Yeah, he's good. They're all good. Oh gosh, the one who was kind of a little bit nerdy. I kind of relate to him a little bit. I can't remember his name. Tall, and he's got all these crazy ideas. I think he owns a beet farm. He's my favorite.
I understand that. Now, what's been your favorite vacation you've ever taken, and why did you enjoy that vacation very much?
Margie.
I was pointing at you. That's funny. So, I thought a lot about this because I've been very blessed to be able to travel a lot. I think Danny and I probably both have been very blessed to be able to travel a lot. And I'm going to say this and y'all are probably going to laugh, but there's not one specific, but every single time we take our family to Disney World down in Florida. And I want to tell you why, because it never ceases to be magical. It's always magical. Every single time you go into, whether it's Animal Kingdom or you go into Magic Kingdom, there's always something, and it's always just done so well. And Disney really just does an incredible job. And then, of course, I told you I'm a big Marvel Studios folks. And so since Disney bought all of that, it's really nice to go into other places and get to see some of those really cool things that they're putting on, the Avatar rides and all of that kind of stuff. It just never ceases to amaze us.
I guess I'll jump right in and say that I've been to Europe and Canada and other places, but my slice of heaven is Folly Beach. And Edisto Beach. Folly Beach feels like home because I used to live in Charleston, but Edisto is about 50 miles south of Folly, and it's just quiet, peaceful. It's the only place you can truly relax and be away from all of the things around you. Just leave the world behind.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I like people too. I don't like people I like people around me on vacations. I just don't like a lot with big crowds. Just never been that guy. But you were talking about Disney, Margie. You know what's really sad? I need to do this. I've been to Orlando 3 times for a working trip. Never once to Disney in that time span. I know, I'm ashamed of myself.
You really should do it. We just went, when did we go? I guess we were there in March, I want to say, and we got on the new Tron ride, and it was incredible. Not plugging for Disney right now, but I'm just saying it was really incredible. And it's every time we go, there's just something new. And the effects of what they put together is just incredible. It's just really is. You really have got to make it a point to go there.
All righty. I'll remember that. So I got one more question, ladies, and that is, are there any good memories I want to tell our viewers about? If you do, why do you remember that memory the most? So before you answer, I like a sentimental memory that made you feel good inside and just, something that made you forget that the world is kind of a cruel place. And a funny memory that made you fall on the floor laughing. And both can be with your job, with each other. Your call, you want to answer it.
Go ahead, Margie.
I'm gonna start with a funny because I tend to like this. So, okay, so let me preface this. I do not like anything spooky, no scary movies. I'm not that person, okay?
Me too, continue.
Okay, all right, perfect. So we have a jokester at our office. And, you know, every time starting kind of right now where we're in now and kind of pushing all the way through, say, November, we go into audit season. We're a nonprofit. Our fiscal year ended June 30th. And so we kind of go into audit. They're looking at all of our numbers and stuff. And so typically, Sam, we have an office space behind our building. It has a big, huge conference round table that's back there where we do trainings and our board meets. And so this jokester that we have in the office, I was in the back for like a week setting up all of our papers and stuff so that when the auditors came in, they could just go around and get all the information that they needed. And this big jokester, because it's a handicap accessible building, you open the door and it opens out instead of opening into the room, it opens out. Well, when you go in there, it's really dark. And so you have to lean in and put your hand on the wall to turn the lights on. Well, when I did, I turned around and there was this big ski mask and this tall man with this big suit on, like raging towards me. And it was all I could do, like just throwing my briefcase and throwing things, just trying to get out the door. And it was one of my staff that does that. So I think that is probably one of my funniest things at being at the ARC. We try to keep it light because not every day is light, but we try to keep things funny and keep things going. And so that's probably one of my funniest stories being at the office is just literally I've never been so scared in my life and trying to get away from something as quickly as I did.
Can Danny test to that?
She knows how funny he can be, right? He's a jokester.
Oh, yes, he is. He is.
And so I think sentimentally, there's so many of those, you know, and I'm going to kind of go back and relate to my work. I think sentimentally it's those, and I have so many of them, Sam, I don't know that I can narrow one down, but the successes of people with disabilities when somebody has told them they can't and they do. And I have so many of those successes that I don't think I could narrow one down, but that is probably one memory for me. It's every single success that every person that we've ever worked with that just sticks in me, and it does, and it really makes me a better person and makes me want to be better for the people that we serve.
And thank you for doing that. And I was thinking though, with your scary story, at least he wasn't dressed up as Michael Myers. That would have been a little more scary.
I think it's Jason is the one that wears the ski mask, but I'm not sure. But I will tell you, like, he will never live this down. He will never live it down with me. Like Halloween and on my birthday are 2 days that I just don't go in the office. I just work from home.
Take the day off.
Oh, that's good stuff. I would have to say that mine is a little bit sentimental and a little bit funny. My husband and I were in middle school together, and we would often sit next to each other on the school bus. And neither of us had any idea that we'd one day be married. We were just friends riding on the school bus, and I kind of didn't, I mean, we would tease each other. I just really didn't think of him as anything other than sort of a silly friend. And fate had a hand in it, because look at where we are today. It's almost 29 years that we've been married, and it's been quite an adventure, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And if you would have told me back then that I would have been, we would be married, I would have just laughed and been like, no way, I don't like him like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. So it's a little bit funny and sentimental, because it's just, fate has a way of working out that way.
What did he do to woo you?
Well, he went away to college and he lost the glasses and the little pocket protector. And so, because he was a little bit nerdy, but, so when he came back, I was like, wow, you just look different. I don't know. Just, we sort of had that, experience together, knowing each other for so long. So it was meant to be.
Do you still, let's be honest, even though he looks a little different, are you still married to a nerd?
Yes.
I love him already. That just proves nerds are the best with
They
women.
are.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, he's a nuclear chemist, so I don't understand half of what he talks about, but he's pretty awesome.
Well, in this case, you go here and the enzyme. Oh, boy. Well, ladies, I think that's all. Is there any closing remarks or anything you guys like to promote?
I just want to thank you for doing this. I think honestly, to be frank, Sam, I was a little anxious about doing this earlier just because I mean, I am actually really good at talking, but I was just anxious about doing it. It's the first ever podcast. I have an opportunity to do another one that's coming up with a group here in South Carolina. And so you gave me my rehearsal, my podcast rehearsal. It might not be an airport rehearsal, but it's a podcast rehearsal. And I want to thank you for that because it definitely makes me feel a lot more comfortable doing this.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a lot of fun, Sam. You're awesome.
Thank you, guys. You guys are going to influence the world. I really do. Have a great day, guys.
Yep,
You
we'll
too.
talk to you soon.